All right, we're going to go over Unit 5 review. Number 1 says, which of the following could be the line of best fit? So we are just estimating. We are not having to get an exact answer. So I'm going to try and draw a box around my points as best I can. Here we go. And then I want to draw a line that's going to be in the center of those two lines. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so now we just have to look at our answer choices and see if we can't find one that looks like it would work. So the easiest thing to do, my line's moved. I was going to say the easiest thing to do is look at, is to look at where my, this pink line was crossing my y-axis. And it looks like it's between 20 and 30, pretty close to 30. So if we look at our answer choices over here, you can see that this says that the y-intercept is at 90. So that would be way up here. Obviously that's not right. The other three though, look, I have 17, 20, and 29. 17 would be here, 20 would be here, but 29 looks like it's closer to where we are. So I am going to choose B, just really based on the y-intercept. All right, let's look at number 2. It says to write an equation in slope-intercept form given m equals 2 and passes through the point 3, negative 4. Okay, a couple of things I want to point out. Slope-intercept form, remember that is the y equals mx plus b. We can find this on our formula chart. And then it says given m, remember m is the slope, and then passes through a point. Okay guys, so if we have a point and a slope, what form of our linear equations could I put that into easily? So of course the obvious choice would be point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we'll replace all of our variables in here with the information they've given me. So remember, this is an x and this is a y. So in the first y, it stays y minus the y from our point over here, and it's a negative 4. So minus a negative will become plus 4 equals my m, which is my slope, and it's right here. That's a 2. Sorry, not an equal sign. Parentheses, and then x minus my x value of my point, which is 3. So it's in point slope form. We want to change it to look like this in the slope intercept. So we just need to do a little bit of rearranging. So I'm going to eliminate my parentheses first by distributing. And I will have y plus 4 equals 2 times x, which is 2x. 2 times a negative 3, which is negative 6. And then all I have to do is move my 4 over by subtracting. So the 4's are gone. It leaves my y equals, I'll bring my 2x down, and then I have negative 6 minus 4, which will give me negative 10. So here's my final answer for number 2. Okay, number 3 is asking us to write an equation in slope-intercept form which contains the points negative 4, 7, and then 12, 3. So we could do a couple of different ways. We could definitely, I have 2 sets of coordinates, the first set and the second set. And I could plug that into our formula for slope. And then I would have my slope and a point, and I could do just like I did on number 2. Or because they gave us 2 sets of coordinates, I have a negative 4 for my x value and a positive 7 for the y. And then I have a 12 for the x value and a positive 3 for my y value. I could put this into our calculator, which is what we've been practicing for a couple of days. So I think that's the route I'm going to go. So give me a chance in a moment and I'll get the calculator up. Okay, so I've got the calculator up. So the first thing I need to do is, of course, I'm starting at my home screen. And I want to go to New Document, which is number 1. And then I never, ever save anything. And then from here, I want to add a list or a spreadsheet. So that would be number 4. In the A column, remember I'm going to type in an X. And then for the B column, I'm typing in a Y. And then I start on row 1. Right here you can see row 1, right? I'm going to start on row 1 and I'm typing in my X values. I had a -4 and then a +12. For my Y values, I had a +7 and a +3. Make sure your cursor is down here below the last Y value. And now we're going to go to Menu. And then I'm going to go to 4 for Statistics. And then 1 for Stat Calculations. And then I have 2 linear regressions. I want to use the one that has the slope-intercept form. So if you'll notice number 3 right here, it has the mx plus b. So that is the one I'm going to choose. And then for my X list, remember I need to type an X, arrow down, type a Y for the Y list, arrow down and hit enter. And I can see right here that I have, here's my slope, my m, and that's going to equal a negative 0.25, and my y-intercept is going to equal a +6. So if I were to write my equation, it would say y equals a -0.25x plus 6. Or if we wanted to change the -0.25 to a fraction, we could have a -1/4x plus 6. So either one of those would be perfectly fine for the answer to number 3. Okay, number 4 says, which correlation coefficient most closely models any set of data? Okay, so really this is all vocabulary. The correlation coefficient, the variable that we used for that was R, and we could find that on our calculators. But bottom line is this, we're not having to write an equation or find an equation, so we're not looking for the R. They're asking us which one of these could most closely model a set of data. So remember in our definition, it was the number that was more closely, or was closest, we'll put it this way, was closest to a 1 or a -1 would be the one that most closely models the data. And remember, the negative was just merely the direction of the graph. In other words, this was a negative correlation. And that's all that sign meant. So for our purposes, we're going to ignore the negative sign then. That just means this would be a negative correlation, this would be a negative correlation, this would be a positive, and this would be a positive. So I'm not really concerned about whether it has a negative or a positive sign. I'm just looking at the number. So for us, I think it's easier if I think of 1 as being 100%. If I look at it that way, and then I can look at this and say, well, this is 17%. This is 89%, this is 54%, and this is 85%. Okay, so which one of these numbers would be closest to 100%? Well, of course, we're looking at the B. That's 89%. Okay, number 5 says graph the inequality. That's it. Okay, so we have this -2x minus y less than -3. Before I can graph it on the coordinate grid, I need to get this into slope-intercept form. Again, that means this, where the y is by itself. So I'm going to move my x term over first. So that means I'm adding 2x to both sides of my inequality sign. And that means this is gone. It leaves a -1y is less than. These are not like terms, but I'm going to put my x term first. That's a +2x, and then this would become, this is a -3. And then it looks like it's by itself, the y, but really I have a negative 1 here. So let's get rid of that by dividing by negative 1. And so because I divided by a negative number, my inequality sign is going to flip. And then 2 divided by negative 1 is negative 2x, and negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3. Okay, so now I have my slope, which is negative 2, and I'm going to use it to graph, so I'm going to put it over 1. And I have my y-intercept, which is a positive 3. So let's go over here to graph. So I've got a positive 3, 1, 2, 3 right here on the y-axis. Using my slope, I'm going to go down 2 and to the right 1. Down 2 and to the right 1. Down 2 and over 1. Down 2 and over 1. I could have gone up 2 and to the left 1. It would have been the same thing. So now remember, we need to determine whether we have a dashed line or a solid line. And this is what we're looking at, the one that we've rearranged. This symbol right here, this inequality sign, does not have the equal to, so it is going to be a dashed line. And then I need to determine whether I'm going to shade above that dashed line or below. This is a greater than. It is a greater than sign, so that means we are going to be going above. So a dashed line, let me get another color. Here we go, a dashed line to connect my points. And then we are shading above. So that means all of this section right here. Anywhere above my line. All of this gets shaded in. Okay. All right, number 6 says the table shows the number of goals a soccer team scored each season since 2005. And then they're asking us to write an equation to represent the line of best fit. So we can do that by using our calculators. So we talked about this in class, that because it's the year, I'm not going to type in the actual year. This is saying that it's the goals scored since 2005. So 2005 would basically be the beginning year, so that's going to be 0. 2006 is 1 year from 2005. 2007 would be 2 years since 2005. 2008 would be 3 years since 2005, and so on. So this would be 4, and this would be 5. So this represents our x, and the goals scored would represent the y. So I'm going to go to the calculator now, and I'm going to type that into that spreadsheet. So give me just a minute. Okay, so remember we are going to start at the home screen, and I want a new document. So that's number 1, and I don't ever save anything. And I'm going to add a list or a spreadsheet, so that would be number 4. On A, we're going to type in an X, and on B, on B, we're typing in a Y. And then I go back to the first row where it has number 1, and I'm typing in the X values. So it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I will arrow back up, back to the row 1 under the Y column, and I'm typing in the number of goals. So 42, 48, 46, 50, 52, and 48. From there, I'm going to go to menu, and then I want number 4 for statistics, and then 1 for stat calculations. And then again, remember, I want the linear regression that has the mx plus b, so that would be the third one. And then I type again an X for the X list and a Y for the Y list. And then I can hit enter after I've arrowed down. And so there is my slope and my y-intercept. My slope is 1.31429. So I use as a rule of thumb that we round to the 100th spot. So that means I'm looking right here is the 100th spot, and I'm going to look at that number to determine whether this stays a 1 or I round up to a 2. So it's staying as a 1, and I have it written over here. And then we have our B. Again, here's the 100th spot. That means I'm looking at the 1 to determine whether this 8 stays 8 or we round up to 9. But it's going to stay as an 8, so I have 44.38. So I have my slope and my y-intercept. So let's flip it back over to the problem and see if I can write that now. So the equation, it says write an equation. Okay, so y equals 1.